From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. For almost 30 years, a little-known program inside a Colorado prison quietly helped wild mustangs find new homes and helped incarcerated men find new purpose. The Wild Horse program at the Cañon City Correctional Facility paired horses rounded up from western rangelands with incarcerated people who learned to care for, train, and prepare these wild horses for adoption. The project helped the Bureau of Land Management protect the wild horses it oversees. And the State Department of Corrections says it gave inmates unique vocational and rehabilitative skills. But now, the federal government has announced that it will end the program because it costs too much. Colorado Sun reporter Jennifer Brown wrote about this unusual collaboration and its impacts. She joined me to talk about what the program accomplished and what's next for Colorado's wild horses.
First of all, these are mustangs who haven't been around humans, really, at any close range. Really, first of all, just seeing humans come in and give them hay, give them grain, give them water, I think is like step one for these mustangs to calm down, and they spent, several weeks, months just doing that. That was the starting point. But, they did have a training program where they would even break these horses, and ride them and get them ready for adoption. So the Mustang advocacy groups, they really praised this program and were really saddened that it was ending because it really helped these horses get adopted. And the majority of Mustangs do not get adopted. Most of them end up in holding pens or free range pasture at different places across the country.
You wrote that the corrals hold just over 2,000 horses, and there were 30 incarcerated men in the program at a given time. What role did they play in caring for the horses and preparing them for adoption?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the program back in 2021, actually. And that day I was able to talk to, the BLM folks and the prison officials who run the program. And I also talked to some of the men incarcerated there, and they described how they just loved working in this program. They would be in their green prison jumpsuits, as they have to do, but, 7 o'clock every morning, they were down at the corrals, putting on their cowboy boots, their cowboy hats, getting ready to feed, water, shoe the horses, and train them.
Was there a story of an incarcerated person whose relationship to these animals really stood out to you?
I don't remember a specific animal story, but I just remember that this was the coveted program in the prison, which also trains dogs. It has farmland, vineyards, lots of places for people to work and learn skills for, when they leave the prison. And some of the men, it was only men that I met that were in the program, had grown up on a farm or with horses and had some experience, and others didn't. And it was really setting them up for when they left the prison to be able to find work that maybe they had never thought of doing before. So it was really a great program on both sides, both for people to learn skills and feel rewarded every day, accomplishing something, and also for these horses who had come from the wild and were now ready to be put up for adoption.
You wrote that the prison complex was the site of a kind of public relations nightmare in 2022 when a number of horses there died from equine flu. How much of a role did that play in the cancellation of this program?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't have any proof that played any role, but I thought it was worth mentioning because that was a really big deal nationwide when horses started dying in Cañon City. And, it turned out that the BLM hadn't followed its own protocols and timelines for getting these horses vaccinated when they're put in close quarters. So I don't know if that had anything to do with ending this program, but it definitely shed light on putting these horses in such close captivity and what can happen, what can go wrong. So there was a lot of scrutiny around the country after that happened.
Understandably. Well, there are more than 2,000 mustangs currently at the prison facility. What happens to them? And will any of them be able to stay in Colorado?
They have identified about 100 horses that are from Colorado because horses from other states did end up in Cañon City as well. There was a few years there where the BLM collected more than 10,000 horses a year from the West. Just in the last 5 years, they've ramped up these efforts. More than 2,000, close probably 2,500 wild horses just in Colorado in the last few years have been rounded up and put in these pens, which is expensive, to keep them. So they've identified 100 horses there that have lived in Colorado, presumably their whole lives, that they are going to prepare for adoption in the state of Colorado. The rest of them will be hauled to Wyoming and Utah in other holding pens that the BLM has.
Well, Jennifer, wild horse preservation is certainly a multi-state project in the West. How will the loss of this program more broadly affect wild horse management and conservation?
Well, that is just such a sticky question because, as we know, the BLM is a federal agency and this is a federal program. Colorado has taken the lead really on trying to have some state involvement in horse management. Colorado has a task force working on helping the federal government. They are pledged state money to pay for fertility vaccines for wild mares to try to cut down on the population so that they don't have to have these helicopter roundups. Governor Polis has tried to outlaw or prohibit helicopter roundups in Colorado, but of course the federal government went and did that anyway. So I think losing this program is, it's definitely a blow to the things that Colorado is trying to accomplish. But that task force is still continuing and has talked about finding more land for a wild horse sanctuary, maybe managed by the state or on state land in the future.
What about the men incarcerated at the Cañon City facility? Do we know how corrections officials might replace the Wild Mustang program with some other kind of learning opportunity?
All they have said about that now, Erin, is that they had 5 state employees and about 30 incarcerated men working in the program, and that none of them would lose, the 5 state employees wouldn't lose their jobs. They would be transferred to something else, as would the 30 inmates. So I'm imagining they might work in one of the farming programs or something agricultural related within the prison complex down there in Cañon City.
That's Jennifer Brown of the Colorado Sun. She spoke with me about a program where men incarcerated in a Colorado prison help prepare wild mustangs for adoption. The federal government has announced it will end the program, citing rising costs. Jennifer told me she tried to learn a dollar amount for that program, but neither federal nor state officials would give a number. We'll have a link to her story in the show notes and at kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.